Happy Monday, everybody! You're listening to the Personal Playlist Podcast, fondly referred to as the P3. I'm Noah Daniel.
Music is a world within itself, with a language we all understand.
I am so excited to have Bernadette Taylor-Dolha here on the Personal Playlist Podcast. Bernadette graduated from the University of Windsor in 1986 with a B.F.A Honours degree in acting. She enjoyed a successful professional career in both the U.S. and Canada in music theatre, commercials, and voice work. In 1997, she received her B.Ed with a drama specialty from York University and joined the staff at Arts Baythorn as a drama and vocal teacher. She is the 2010 Toronto Star Teacher of the Year. She shares her love of teaching through the arts with her husband, Andrew Dolha, who is the head of drama and dance at Arts Westmount. Her daughters, Adelaide and Audrey, are proudly named after musicals, and we'll hear more about that soon. Welcome to the show, Bernadette.
Good morning.
I am so excited to have you here. I have 3 arts daughters, which was one of the greatest gifts of my motherhood. One of them is learning with your husband, one of them is finishing her time with you, and one of them is coming into Baythorn. And I am excited to have you here because you're one of those legendary teachers. But the other thing that's amazing is watching my child in your care. And because of that, I'm so excited to honor and celebrate your contributions to the profession, your general style and joie de vivre. So tell me a little bit about teaching at Baythorn.
Oh my goodness, thank you. That was lovely. My great joy is the students. So if thank you for that very flattering comments about your daughter and all of that, but that is the joy of my life. That I was the actor, and then I moved into a different stage in the classroom, and that experience with those fantastic children every day is the joy of my life. So thank you for that. But it sounds like I'm the star, but really it's those kids that affect me every day and make my life full.
So you imbue acting in your classroom experience, but you had a significant acting career. What changed for you?
Well, you know what? It was awesome. And I did a lot of music theater and voice work and that kind of thing. But it was a car accident, actually, that changed my life for the better. If that sounds weird, it's the truth. I had a major head-on collision and put my head through the car window, and then there was a lot of drama surrounding that. And then I ended up with double vision in the end, a broken leg, 100,000 things, but then it was the vision. And it left me with double vision. And that became very difficult to dance and navigate any kind of lighting changes and whatever. I was always falling down the stairs. So the insurance company said, you should do something else. And I said, okay, I should be a teacher. And then they put you through this hilarious program where you go for like an 8-hour and they test you and they put things in this and you do this and test. And at the end of it, they said, oh, you should be a teacher. I'm like, yeah, I got there just a little bit before you, but that's okay. So then I went to York University and then a year later, I was offered Baythorn. And I was actually playing the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz in a summer production, and for the company that was working, that had known me before my car accident, and they were like helping me to get through anything that was dangerous or whatever, still supporting me in my career. And then I got the call to audition for Baythorn, and then I got the job. And then my husband was like, I said, oh, honey, I don't know if I want to leave acting. It's difficult, but it's my love. And he said, try it for a year because you never know. And 23 years later, here I am, the stage I'm supposed to be playing to the audience. I'm supposed to be my play is different. It's math, language, history, but my audience is the kids, and it is the best audience I've ever had.
And they lap it up, and they keep coming back for more. And I know most of my elder daughter friends, she goes to school with so many Baythorn kids, and you're part of that story of what it was like to evolve as an artist and a learner, and to be self-aware, which is something you really help kids to go on a journey through. And I believe that's so important and an essential part of education. Say that your daughters are proudly named after musicals. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's a love story. I met my husband. We were at Theatre Aquarius, and it was actually after I had had the big car accident, and I went. It was my first show back, and the Peter Mandia, the artistic director there, called me and said, we'd really like you to play Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors. And I said, I don't know. I'm really struggling. I've had the eye surgery, the knee surgery, and arm surgery. And he said, we believe in you. Get here. And on the way there, I had another car accident. It was brutal. It was that one, the first one, none of them were my fault. I don't want anybody thinking like, oh my God, get this woman's license plate and stay away from her. Neither was my fault, but I was on my way to Theatre Aquarius, and it was a major snowstorm. I hit black eyesight, and I totaled my new car. And right. And so, but I thought, you know what, if I don't get to that theater today, I called them. They're like, don't come. I'm like, if I don't get to this theater today, I need to keep moving. I need to go forward. I need to not let this knock me backwards. I'm going to just keep going forward. So I went there, and then I was coming in the door, obviously very, very late. And there was way down the hall, like there's a great movie scene, but way down the hall, the artistic director was coming towards me, and he was with this man who I'd never met. And he said, Peter said, Bernie, this is Andrew Dolha. He's playing Seymour. And that was the first time. And it really, truly was a movie moment where everything slowed down. And we looked at each other, and it was like, boing. And then, so we played opposite each other in that, and the reviews all said the chemistry between the leads was like, you could, feel that, sure. That amazing. Yeah. And then that was it. So we got married. I walked down the aisle to Suddenly Seymour. And, so we named Audrey, our second daughter, we named her Audrey after that. And our first daughter, we'd always knew we wanted to name a child Adelaide from Guys and Dolls. So yes, they are proudly named after musicals.
And the arts and music is a part of your whole life. So if we go back to the beginning, absolutely. This concept album that your song comes from explores a journey through life. And so you chose the song because it tells what about you?
Simon and Garfunkel are brilliant writers, and I use them in the classroom all of the time, because if you're going to teach literary devices, these are the writers to go to. When you The Sound of Silence, if you go to any of those, they are just loaded and beautiful. And I love that they're not linear songs that tell a story. Oh, you broke my heart, now we're back together. No, it isn't that. It's about because true art is what you interpret it to be. And so when I was growing up, my father, my parents are divorced, and my father would pick us up on random Sundays, and he had an 8-track tape cassette in his car, and he would play Simon and Garfunkel and take us for a large dip cone from the Dairy Queen. And I always said to my husband, if I ever wrote a book about my father, it would be called Love is a Large Dip Cone from the Dairy Queen. It wasn't a great relationship. And actually, in a strange and interesting thing that life hands you, my father passed away during COVID times. And
I'm so sorry for your loss.
But isn't it? I think it's interesting that we call it COVID times, but it is. And then when you're trying to grieve during what's already an interesting, strange and interesting time, it becomes how do you do that? And it wasn't a great relationship. It wasn't, and he lives in Tennessee, so it wasn't even, all of the COVID limitations, and then all of the limitations of sometimes what life gives you with relationships. But what I learned from my father is not from him, but maybe in spite of him, was that you must always look to the good, right? So I'm not going to whine and have a tantrum and say my father wasn't a great father, because he did teach me lots of things, because I want to be the present parent. I want to be the unconditional love parent. And I also will afford him a little bit of leeway, because I think people do the best they can with their limited resources. And my father was limited in his resources, but I do know on a Sunday afternoon with an 8-track tape cassette going of Simon and Garfunkel and a large dip cone in my hand, my father was loving me the best he could. Wow. So for me, in this song, Photograph, I love, because, again, music is so present, right? When you asked me to pick 3 songs, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? I love music. And it was sort of like telling what speaks to you at the time. And I was working with the students. They design their own lofts, virtual lofts, and we'll go sit in their loft. And when we have our Google Meet, and we sit in their loft and we talk about what they've chosen in their loft and whatever. And then we would play their anthems, their COVID anthem, what's getting them through. And they were picking fantastic songs like Wonderful World and Let It Be and Smile Though Your Heart Is Breaking. Like one of the children chose Smile Though Your Heart Is Breaking, the Charlie Chaplin version. And we just sat in a child's loft and listened to this beautiful music. And it was so inspiring. And I was picturing them in my head, these photographs of these children in my head. And then I was like, oh, that song is so good. So that's where I got that one.
Okay, well, let's play it.
And what a time it was a time of innocence, a time of confidences. Long ago it must be, I have a photograph. Preserve your memories, they're all that's left you.
Your identity song seems to tie the story of your daughter into the story of who you are. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So Somewhere That's Green is there's always hope. There's something coming. There's something that's beautiful, even when it's told in this beautiful character, Audrey, of a, simple, and she's actually in an abusive relationship, blah, blah, blah. And still somewhere in her heart, there is always hope. And when I sang that song every night, it was 100% with Andrew in my mind, that I was maybe finally had found my Somewhere That's Green with him. And in the end, 24 years later, here we are.
I know Seymour's the greatest, but I'm dating a semi-sadist. So I got a black eye and my arms in a cast. Still, that Seymour's a cutie. Well, if not, he's got inner beauty. And I dream of a place where we could be together at last.
And what kind of place is that, honey? An emergency room?
Oh, no. It's just a daydream of mine. A little development I dream of, just off the interstate. Not fancy like Levittown. Just a little street in a little suburb, far, far from urban Skid Row. The sweetest, greenest place, where everybody has the same little lawn out front and the same little flagstone patio out back. All the houses are so neat and pretty, 'cause they all look just alike. Oh, I dream about it all the time. Just me and the toaster and a sweet little guy like Seymour. A matchbox of our own, grill out on the patio, disposal in the sink, a washer and a dryer, and an ironing machine. In the tract house that we share, somewhere that's green, he rakes and trims the grass. He loves to mow and weed. I cook like Betty Crocker, and I look like Donna Reed. There's plastic on the furniture to keep it neat and clean. In the pine sol scented air, somewhere that's green. Between our frozen dinner.
Saw that play on Broadway. So when you guys were taking the kids last year to Stratford to see it, I was so excited. And it's amazing. You actually can't find the movie anywhere, not to download, not to play. So we only have the play to talk about and the music. And it's phenomenal. As I was playing it now, where did it take you?
Right back to the beginning of the relationship with my husband, which is like a true love story to this day. He walks into a room and I get that feeling, and I just, I loved that time. We drove in and out together. We both lived in Toronto, but the theater was in Hamilton, and we drove in and out together every day. And that is truly how our relationship grew. These hour conversation there, an hour conversation back every day, and realizing just how in sync we were, and this beautiful friendship developed, and then our love of music theater, and then all, like, it just built. So I can picture myself on that stage, looking out into the audience and singing that song, truly connected. Which I think is why the papers were all like, it was such a great performance, because any great performances are when they're truly connected. And I was, my intention there was all over the place good, because I was so in love with him and continue to be.
But even your identity as an educator, like the optimism of this song and the ability to overcome circumstance, you exemplify that as a role model, but you also bring that out. And, you talk about virtual spaces. I've had the purview of seeing the impact of how you've created personality and connection and community, even through distance learning. And these loft spaces that the kids designed was about creating their own space indicative of their personality and their own somewhere that's green. So I think it is such a great identity song, and clearly a part of who you are. But even you probably maybe some days need to pick me up. And so there are so many different songs I'm sure you could have chosen from many different stages and forums, but you chose this one. Tell us about why.
I know, and it's kind of Coldplay, it wouldn't necessarily be my playlist. It's my daughter's playlist. And, but there was a time I was asked to speak at it was like a Me Too We extension thing at the Richmond Green Theater, and Craig Kailberger was actually speaking there as well. And so they asked me to speak from an educator's perspective about what I bring to the classroom to inspire children to affect change in the world. And so I knew I was going to be speaking beside this wonderful man who has affected change in the world through Me to We. And I thought to myself, well, what is a little voice like mine doing on this stage? And then I realized, well, that's what that is, because they finding voice, giving everyone voice, the movie stars to the teachers in the classroom have a huge voice. We use it every day to affect those children. So I was trying to formulate a speech for this, and I was running because I find I can clear my head when I'm running. And I was playing, my daughter suggested this song, Viva la Vida. So I was running to that, dun, 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 and just the beat is great to run to, dun, dun, da, da, da. And then I was always listening to the lyric, and again, great art. It isn't so linear. It isn't so obvious what the messaging is in this song, but it was always made me think, right? And be creatively like buzzing the whole time I was trying to figure out what this guy was talking about. And great lyric. And then so I looked to see what it was, and it ends up that this song was Viva la Vida. It means long live life, and it was actually the Coldplay writer got it from the artist Frida Kahlo, and she like brilliant artist, but she was struggling through pain and illness, and this was her last painting she did. And so even in her death, she was finding inspiration through art and living long live life. She was, and so when I saw that extension, I was like, well, that's what it is. It's getting through. It's never giving up. Even in your last days, she didn't give up. She expressed through her art. And so I wanted, my speech became about turning things in your life around. I always say to the kids, 10% what happens, 90% how you react to it. I didn't invent that quote. They always think it's me, but it wasn't me. But it really is the basis of that. That's the inspiration. It doesn't, even now during COVID times and all of those things, we will 10% what happens, 90% how you react to it. So this song just makes me think of possibilities. And if you go into his lyric, it's about, a king and how he used to be a king and lost his throne, but keep going. So that's the long answer to that choice.
No, but it's a beautiful answer. And I know what Chris Martin was feeling, inspired by her boldness. And, the real translation is the life lives. And I think that that's a message that's so beautiful and would definitely pick me up anytime. So let's play Coldplay, Viva la Vida.
Great.
I used to rule the world, seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone, sweep the streets I used to own. I used to roll the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes, listen as the crowd would sing. Now the old king is dead, long live the king. One minute I held the key, next the walls were closed on me, and I discovered that my castle stand upon pillars of salt and pillars of sand. I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Mirror, mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, once you've gone it was never an honest word. And that was when I ruled the world.
You give students the power to feel like they can rule the world. How do you feel about sharing your 3 songs with me today?
That was an amazing. I loved that. I love that that journey, that exploration of music. I think it's so inspiring. Music belongs in the classroom. Whether you're using it as an engagement tool or as it belongs in the classroom, and that we need to let the kids speak. Sometimes they can't speak through their own voice. It's in there, right? But they need to. And if they find a piece of music or a poem, we just did a online poetry interactive unit, and those kids are just, oh my, beautiful, inspired words from those kids. So, and they were exploring other people's words, and then they can find their own words. So I think music is the key to get them there, to find their own voice.
I concur. I did an entire TED Talk on the subject. I believe so deeply in that. But what was interesting about your project, I had never seen book-spine poetry before, and I tweeted out Tori's, and people were really responding to it. So thank you for teaching me another tool. I've learned a ton from you this year, even though you didn't even know it. Please tell people how they can find you.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Snapchat.
What's your handle on Instagram?
To find me on Instagram, it's BernieTD123.
Okay. Well, Bernie123, I want to thank you so much for coming out to the Personal Playlist podcast. Is there anything you want to add before I play you out?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. And you know what? You deserve a shout out too, because you have one phenomenal kid there. I learn from her every day. That kid, that's a kid who's going to rule the world right there.
Thank you. I learn from her every day too. I hope you have a fantastic day. Talk to you soon.
You too, my friend.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on the P3, the Personal Playlist podcast. I'm Noah Daniel. This is Voice Ed Radio, and I hope you have a fantastic day.